Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from Dawn of Abby from the Off My Chest subreddit and says, my 26 female, mum 43 female, started dating my biological father, 45 male, after he's been absent from my life for 26 years. This might be long, so please bear with me. My mum had me 9 days after her 17th birthday. My dad was 19. They were not and have never been in a relationship. My mum eventually started dating another guy, who she got engaged to when she was 19. He sadly committed suicide a week before they were supposed to get married. This obviously had an emotional toll on my mother, and kicked off a 16-year addiction to pills and IV drugs. My grandparents, her mum and dad, legally adopted me when I was 2 and raised me as their own. They are both insanely good people. Words aren't enough to express everything they did for me and how much I love and adore them. Mum was very in and out of the picture, would disappear for months at a time, randomly show up to my grandparents to visit me, when in reality she was asking them for money or something else she needed, then would disappear again, in and out of jail. Married 4 times, all to very abusive men. All the works. I'm happy to say she did eventually overcome her addiction and has gotten a master's degree and is working on a doctorate. She's an addictions counselor now. We have mended our relationship and speak every day, though I travel for work, so seeing each other in person is more difficult. My dad has never had much to do with me. I met him for the first time when I was in 3rd grade, when my mum went behind my grandparents' back and took me to his house. I've never seen him again. When I was about 16 or 17, I found him and was able to obtain his phone number. We did text occasionally back and forth until I was 21. It was mostly me reaching out, and we never talked about anything personal. I tried to get to know him, asked him to go to lunch, invited him to my high school graduation, etc., and he always had an excuse. We never met in person. I invited him to my college graduation, which he said he would come to. The day before, I asked him if he was still coming, and he blew up on me, told me he wasn't coming, he didn't consider me his daughter, etc. I blocked him and haven't spoken to him since. Obviously, we had a very surface level relationship. If I saw him in a crowded room, I would have no idea who he was. He's a stranger to me. He has 2 other sons by another woman he was with who he actually raised. Fast forward to a month ago. My mum leaves her current husband, who was also incredibly physically and mentally abusive. She's been with him for 14 years. She's left him multiple times before, but always goes back. This time she seemed to be sticking to it. She moved back to our hometown. Her and my stepdad moved to Florida when I was 18 and got a job. She eventually ends up telling me she's living with and having a full-on relationship with my biological dad. She asked me not to tell my grandparents yet. A couple of days ago, she ends up telling them. Neither are very happy about it, obviously. My grandpa really despises this man. He had the emotional fallout over the years. He's had to see the emotional fallout over the years he's caused me and wants nothing to do with him. My grandma didn't seem happy either, but my mum told me she's went over there and visited with him and his sons. My dad's son just had a baby, and she wanted to visit with him. My mum is adamant that she loves him and always has and always will, which is something out of left field for me. She's always shit-talked him into the ground in the past, and like I said before, they never dated as far as I'm aware. She's been shoving him down my throat lately, always talking about how great he is, telling me I need to message him and talk to him, how he's sorry for not being in my life, how they've both talked about how bad they were to me and how they're full of regret. I feel like a terrible person for being upset about it. I'm so glad my mum is getting away from my stepdad. I'm so thankful she made it out alive and seems to be happy. I feel extremely betrayed though. Out of the billions of people on this planet, she goes to that motherfucker. I feel kind of betrayed by my grandma too. She lied to me about seeing him, which isn't normal for her. I don't understand why everyone is being so accepting, minus my granddad. I feel bad for it, but I can't help to feel pissed off and hurt. Sorry for the lengthy post, and thanks for listening. Chuckin says, out of the billions of people on this planet, she goes to that motherfucker. And then says, I swear, I had the same literal thought verbatim as I was reading your story. So I feel we are kindred spirits. You have a solid perspective and seem to understand what's going on around you, and you didn't ask for any advice. So I'll just say that I understand why you'd feel the way you do, without telling you you need to feel any particular way. Because you don't. I will only say, allow yourself room to process this and even engage how you feel over time. You very well may not, and I'm not even suggesting you need to, only that you give yourself the room and permission to do it. In the meantime, you should set boundaries. Initially, you can use the time to process as an excuse to buy time. But since it seems like you're about to have to start playing defense, you might want to prepare. An example would be, Mum, I really don't know what you're doing, but I do know this. If you try to force, persuade, or even suggest that I should just drop it all and be family, I will block you. Nobody gets to decide how I feel or when I should feel it. I am not okay, and I do not know when I will be. Fuck with me at your own risk from here. Oddfellow says your mum got a PhD in something she's terrible at. Who the fuck is she going to counsel when her life is royally fucked up? Your dad told you where you stand. Don't let your mum's rose-colored glasses fool you. She's never lived without a man, and your sperm donor is just another notch in her belt. Another user says, I don't know man, the father of my baby walked out on both of us, but before he did, he floated the idea of him and I getting back together at a later date, like several years in the future. I can't say for sure how I feel in the future, but I said no because I couldn't imagine being able to get over the fact that he voluntarily was not present in his son's life. I just wouldn't love him the same. I also wouldn't be able to tell my son that the person who wasn't around for him was back in my life as my partner. And quite frankly, my son is more important to me. I'm not saying there's no circumstances under which your mum and bio dad could get together, and it would be fine. The fact that you're not okay with it would pretty much preclude it for me if I were your mum. I'm sorry. And one more comment from Mysterious Ad who says, I cut off everyone but Grandpa. They spent your whole childhood victimizing you and abandoning you. And now after your mum finally gets her shit together, she signed you up for more abuse as an adult. She's continually proven that she doesn't care about you and doesn't want what's best for you. I'm so sorry that the people who should have loved you the most abandoned you as a child and continue to make you feel insignificant. It infuriates me that parents actually treat their kids this way. They wrecked your life, but because of your grandparents and because of your persistence, you have beaten all the odds and seem reasonable, kind, and compassionate. They tried to tear you down, but you refused to let them sink you. You overcame their horrible parenting. It's time you cut out their toxicity and selfishness from your life. You'll be much happier when you realize you were cursed with bad parents and they will never change. The comments were pretty much spot on for me, is that your mum's coming in and out of your life creating chaos wherever she goes. And I can only really see one solution to this because, as always, I always ask the question in my head, what is she bringing to your life? What is she actually doing for you? And it doesn't sound like much apart from creating chaos. It seems like your grandpa is the only one in this situation that understands what you've actually gone through. And this is the point where you need to advocate for yourself and make the decisions that benefit you and don't worry about what they think. Because like in the post you've just said, I'm saying it myself, the comments are saying it, that this person is just creating chaos in your life, adding to the trauma that you already have from your childhood. And you simply deserve better. But OP comes in a year later and says, I posted on this sub over a year ago about how my mother started dating my biological father after he had been absent from my life for 26 years. He's had 2 children he was around for. I suck and I'm unsure how to link it here, but it's in my post history if anyone cares to read it. He ended up getting married this past June. My mum did try to force a relationship with him and his 2 kids on me prior to their marriage. I moved to the West Coast for work and decided to go no contact for a couple of months to think things through and determine how I really felt. In the midst of no contact, I found out they got married. I did talk to my mum and laid out all my feelings about her and the situation shortly after that. She basically gaslighted me and told me that I need to forgive and forget. Needless to say, I no longer speak to her or have anything to do with any of them. I'm content with this decision. I realized I am much happier without her in my life. I have much less stress and anxiety this way. Reflection says, Theop, you do what